from like car manufacturers perspective, it's a huge oligopoly, so to say, and people are basically competing with each other, but they're also kind of have this cartel where they're just very, very close to innovation. Companies that are managing the whole industry, they are very slow moving and they are very price sensitive. That is why a deep-in approach is a very good approach here.
This episode is brought to you by Polygon Labs. They're allowing developers to build any app on any chain using the most performant ZK tech in the industry. Design your own sovereign ZK chain using Polygon CDK, or launch a dApp on the Polygon POS or ZK EVM chains themselves. The best part? Anything you build in the AgLayer ecosystem will give you massive network effects from day one. Visit polygon.technology/grants to apply for funding today.
Yeah, let's jump into it in terms of like what is Soarchain building and why is it important to the average person? So you guys are obviously positioned in the mobility/deep-in space. But yeah, just curious. I mean, and maybe we even start not with Soarchain, but with mobility broadly. Like, what do you see as the big problems in the mobility industry, and how can they be improved? And then we can segue into Soarchain from there.
Yeah, definitely. So I have been in this space for about 10 years now. I was previously working on autonomous vehicles, both developing the hardware and software for them. And it was pretty amazing, actually. We were able to build autonomous vehicles, singular autonomous vehicles, but then we saw this need for these vehicles to have connectivity because they didn't have. So when you put all these autonomous vehicles together in the same spot, in the same street, they just act out, even though they can drive autonomously in a controlled environment. So this calls for much better connectivity infrastructure, which is lacking, especially for mobility. We, as people, have these 4G, 5G, LTE, cellular infrastructures, LoRa networks. Everything is designed for us, but there isn't a connectivity infrastructure for mobility, for automotive, for cars, and for any mode of mobility, basically. It's trying to reuse the technology that's already existing for humans, but the parameters are really different. Like, you have high mobility, exceptionally high amounts of data. Like, as a human, maybe you're streaming a few gigabytes of video per day, maybe you're uploading, downloading, but as a modern average car, you would be generating up to 2 terabytes of data per day. And this data is, of course, extremely important. And as cars become more and more autonomous, more and more sensor-oriented, they will just generate more data. And this will be especially important to nearby vehicles and other endpoints within the city, within the infrastructure, and to the people who are also using the road. So that's how we actually started building this network. And of course, this is from the technical perspective, and from like the corporations perspective, or like car manufacturers perspective, it's a huge oligopoly, so to say, and people are basically competing with each other, but they're also kind of have this cartel where they're just very, very close to innovation. For example, we have been working with an OEM previously to provide a connectivity technology to them 2 years ago. And the project started, and it took 2 years to complete the project, and it will take another 5 years to actually get this small, very easy to use device on inside their vehicles. The only thing that it does is collect data from the vehicle, encrypt it, sign it, and send it to the network. And that's how slow moving the industry is. So that's, I think, these are the two problems in the mobility space. First one, the companies that are managing the whole industry, they are very slow moving and they are very price sensitive. That's another thing. That is why deep-in approach is a very good approach here, which we can also discuss later. And the second thing is, of course, that they're very closed to innovation. In a way, like, they want to become Tesla. So I think they are the leading company. It is safe to say, because they're not only like a car company, they're also a software company. They're managing the whole organization as if it was a software development company, and of course hardware. But the other car companies are like 100-year-old companies that are still being managed by 100-year-old old economy mines. So that's why it's very difficult for them to integrate this very simple, very accessible connectivity device to their vehicles and collect data from it. So this is, I think, the mobility's problem.
No, that makes sense. So it's kind of like as cars get smarter, more electronic, more software oriented, they're generating more and more data. But a lot of times, I mean, one, like as a car owner, you don't really own that data. The OEM owns it. And then the OEM doesn't even really do that much with it because they're not really software first organizations. And also that data is siloed like within each OEM, and they're not really like incentivized to share it between the two. And then you're saying like autonomous driving, it's going to be important for cars to be able to communicate with each other in real time. And they can't really right now because of those silos and just because of a lack of kind of developer applications like built on top of car data. And so you all are looking to basically break those silos down and also return data ownership to car owners, and also just have interesting apps built on top.
Exactly. The thing is that this is like a perfect explanation, I guess. The data ownership of your car wasn't a thing until now, and OEMs are, as you said, they're collecting the data, but they don't even know what to do with it, and they do not provide a nice UI, nice UX to their users, what to do with their data. And less than 1% of the cars are connected around the world, but we have more than 1 billion cars right now that are drivable, that are operational, that we can get some kind of data, whose data is set to be valued at something around $200 up to $1,000 per year per car. And this is only like the face value of it, where like this is the money that some kind of organization is willing to pay for the car. This doesn't include the benefits that you would get from these apps built on top of your data, such as a predictive maintenance, such as secure safety applications, like more ADAS applications, ultimately autonomy applications, better insurance premiums, better service, better servicing, car service, etc. These are all like day 1.5 applications that could be built on top of, and they are already being built on top of actually Soarchain. And one of the things is, of course, we also seeing is this slow moving and price sensitive nature of the car manufacturers. So we have this device which you plug into your car, and it starts collecting data from your car and sends the proof of that data to the network, so that it makes sure your car and the device is connected and creating integral, authentic, and plausible data. And this, the proof of this is sent to the chain, and anyone can actually check from the chain that that specific car, which is anonymous, by the way, is healthy and non-malicious and generating useful data. Of course, all cars generate different amounts and different data in different frequencies. So it really differs from car to car, but ultimately it creates a registry, a live registry of cars and the quality of the data that they provide, updated on a daily basis. And ultimately, this data is used by multiple applications that are, in the end, returned to the user as a benefit, which would extend the lifetime of their cars or reduce the lifetime costs of their cars. And this is what we're aiming for. And the reason I keep telling this slow-moving industry, because we have worked with multiple OEMs. We're still working with them. And this is, of course, not a one-sided equation. We can't just have people and we're like revolutionaries. We will completely ignore the car manufacturers. That's obviously something you cannot do. But if we were to wait for these car manufacturers, we would have waited maybe till 2028 or something to just have a simple connectivity device that's sending data to the network. But now, using the main utility of DePINs, which is like the distributing the cost and the effort of deploying an infrastructure, and in this case, The infrastructure is, of course, the connectivity device inside the car. I use it a bit more broadly. In this case, it's not just like a fixed wireless infrastructure, such as in Helium's case, but it's still a data infrastructure, let's call it. And the second thing that still lacks in the mobility industry is, of course, the incentive structure. So these companies are just manufacturing cars, and they're actually adopted these huge optimizations in manufacturing, but they really don't know how to develop software, maintain subscription-based services, where this is now a very common thing in the software development industry. And by providing a very high level, very easy to use platform to these manufacturers or to the developers, you kind of also include them, and the auto manufacturers are also now incentivized to contribute to the network itself. And when you look at the end user's perspective, from the end user's perspective, up until now, they really didn't have any incentive to share the data, nor they had the ability to pick what to share and choose to whom to share the data. And now once they have the power in their hands, they can actually pick to whom to share the data, which app they want to share the data, in which frequency they want to share the data, and ultimately how much they want to monetize their data. That's also an option for the end user. There are two things, of course: monetizing the data by providing it to the data requesters, and the second thing is the benefits that they get from the analysis or usage of their data within certain apps. So like, one is the thing that they get for their raw data, and the second thing is the insights or the feedback inputs that they get for the process data that they input to these apps.
Yeah, so we covered a lot of ground there. I mean, I was going to ask you next, like, so how does a user connect their car to the network? But you said it, right? So you guys sell a couple different small pieces of hardware that basically plug right into the, I think it's called the OBD2 port in your car. And so it'll get data directly from your car. I think you guys have a secure element or a secure chip inside that device too. So it's like hard to tamper with. You can trust that like the data is being generated by a real car. And then that data's stored on a blockchain so that anyone can verify it. So that it's also kind of permanently there. No one can tamper with that data. Obviously it's anonymous. And then you were kind of saying basically like you went to the mass market, to like people that own cars first, because working directly with OEMs would take 4, 5, 6 years to get these devices kind of auto embedded in the car upon manufacturing. So you'd rather just go to the car owners directly first. It's an easier sell. And then they can, I mean, the incentives to connect your car, both, you know, I'm assuming points now and will be tokens in the future, which we can talk about later. And then also there's the ability to view your own data as a car owner, and also kind of benefit from having it collected in one place and having apps, you know, have access to it and also be built on top. Like, you know, maybe there's like more granular car driving data, which gives you a lower insurance rate because you're kind of proving that you're a better driver than the average, is something I've definitely heard of before. So I think that makes sense from like a how do users connect their car. I'm assuming it's a couple $100 for the device. It's a pretty easy onboarding process. How do you guys compare to DIMO? Because DIMO is another company, you know, DeepIn, I've heard of that. It sounds like it has a very similar vision. So I'm curious what you think of their model and how it is the same or differs than yours.
Yeah, in terms of what we're doing differently is the first thing is that we're not storing or aggregating the data itself. So as a user, we have worked with data aggregation companies or as a data aggregation company. And it's a fairly Web2 native model where you, as the opco, just gather the data, categorize it, catalog it, and sell it to someone someday who might need it. So you endlessly just store this data. In our case, we provide a platform in a decentralized manner where the data is ensured for its authenticity, integrity, and plausibility through both the hardware, as you mentioned, through the secure elements, through verifying that the exact software is running on it, verifying the signatures, and ultimately verifying the data, doing some heavier compute checks on the data in our scaling layer. So that's one of the things that we're doing differently, where the scaling layer is actually called the runner layer. It's a state machine replicated layer where you have multiple of these nodes, and they actually run a pre-consensus mechanism where they check the data with some algorithms, and they, without knowing each other, need to create the same exact proof and come to a consensus on that proof. And only then your car your car has a score which is increased every time you send good data, and which is decreased every time you send like bad data, which is like malicious activity or some like gaming activity of the network. And ultimately you create this score, and this score means that a higher the score, the healthier car data is. And ultimately this is very important for the data requesters. And the second thing is that since we're not storing away the data, but only enabling others to get direct access to the data, we have this thing called data provision request, where as a data requester, you could be, let's say, a road monitor. You're building a road monitoring application, and you specifically open a data provision request, which is an on-chain entity or like a special kind of transaction which you send, and all the eligible cars get notified that there's a data provision request of, let's say, tire pressures, and it's pretty granular. You can choose from which region you want this data, from which car model, make, year, etc. And as a user, you have the ability to opt in to either join that data provision request or not join that data provision request. But if you join it, you have to join it on chain, and you send a transaction to join. And once you join it, you need to fulfill a certain amount of data provision to the requester. So that's kind of like you have two ways. The first way is constantly being up and running and proving that you are available to the network. Thus, we have this proof of availability concept. And the second thing is that the data requesters are directly placing these data provision requests on chain so that they can reach out to the eligible cars, and the car owners would just directly send the data without even Soarchain seeing the data itself.
Gotcha. So yeah, you're trading like data privacy, and you're gaining like data privacy in kind of a more disintermediated model in terms of you guys getting out of the way of people that want the data and people that have the car data, for potentially a little bit more friction on the, like, you know, car owner has to click sign transaction to send the data to a customer, versus like they might still have their car plugged in, but they just like don't monitor the app. So it's like the data is still there and it still could be monetized, but it won't because they don't monitor the app. I guess, yeah. Is that basically the trade-off in your mind?
Yeah, that, but I wouldn't call it a trade-off, because I think it's a fairly easy UX solution for that, where we're already implementing that. Actually, like you can just auto join all these data provision requests through the app. It's not an on-chain thing, or it's not like it's just like the app feature where you would just sign in to all available requests if you want to. But ultimately, what I was trying to say is that the things that you want to join, you can choose from, and you can ultimately have this manually joining thing.
Well, that's brilliant. I think that makes a ton of sense, because anyone that's getting the Soarchain device and plugging it in, I'm sure, is fine with kind of monetizing any and all of their data from the get-go. So if you just kind of make that the default, then it's pretty passive from their perspective. So that makes sense. What kind of scale are you guys at in terms of the supply side, in terms of cars connected? Or have you not fully launched that side of the business yet?
So yeah, we have actually. So we have been running our testnet for about a year now. Actually, it's just been a year. And in the testnet, we have now reached almost to 20,000 cars, all connected through a hardware device. And we also have some Teslas that are directly connected through their own connectivity APIs. Basically, we have a small integration slash partnership with Tesla there, and that there we also have about 1.5 to 2,000 cars. I guess it's really increasing since we're also closing in on the TG. And these are the testnet numbers. And in terms of like the lead times, we had a few longer lead times in the past, but right now it's up maybe 2 weeks, at most to a month, depending on where you live. The devices are available, and we ship pretty much around the whole world. Like wherever you have LTE connectivity or even 3G connectivity, you can actually use this device.
Cool. That's super helpful. And then in terms of revenue, I'm assuming you guys are pre-revenue, but you did say, which I think is very helpful, the average car probably has data worth $200 to $1,000 a year or lifetime.
No, it's actually per year.
Per year. I mean, I think that makes sense, right? Especially like that's probably only, like you said, the surface or like the first order effect, kind of dollar value of that data. But especially once you start making all of this data and the apps on top of it like kind of interoperable, and when you add in a crypto component too, I think the value of the data could go up a lot. So, but that's right. You're pre-revenue right now, but we have a sense of what each car would be worth. And we also have a sense of kind of the typical customer profiles, insurance companies, tire manufacturers, OEMs, etc.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, these companies are, of course, like when you look at it, we do have a huge insurance company interested in privacy preserving insurance premium provision kind of thing. That's also like a really interesting application on their end. They're willing to do this fully homomorphic encryption method on the user's data. So initially, they're not seeing the user's data at all. Users input their data to the app, to their app. That's on Soarchain, and then the user gets a premium, an offer for their premium, and it is guaranteed that the insurance company doesn't see the data at all. So that's something like a POC that we're working on, and after that, of course, there will be multiple insurance companies, and users will be able to pick which insurance company they want to work with, depending on the premium, without even exposing anything about their data at all to these companies, thanks to the fully homomorphic encryption. It's a use case that we're still working on, but it's a very exciting one. And ultimately, yes, these companies are interested, like these big companies. OEMs are very interested. So Maruti in India, for example, they were working on a road profiling application where they would be using various data fields from the car using the Soarchain technology to profile the roads and get the map of these road faults like potholes, rough patches, etc., because it's a huge issue in India, and notifying the user before they reach that road fault really saves the cars huge from huge costs. So that was something that they were working on. For example, another interesting application that's currently using the Soarchain infrastructure is actually the Dashpool app. I think it's changed to the AI Kiddo, where they're basically collecting data from the smartphones, actually. So that's also an option because the device works in combination with the smartphone, and through getting videos from the road, from the environment, and feeding it into an AI model, they're creating a real-time map that is being narrated by the AI itself. So they initially started with roads, since this is a mobility-based project, and they are also aiming to extend this to pedestrians, motorcyclists, etc. So it's kind of like Hive Mapper, but not for actual mapping, like the mapping the environment in a 3D or street level imagery way, but more of a narrative where you see in human readable format what's happening on that exact location, similar to like a Waze. It's a decentralized way, basically. So that's like another application you using Soarchain. So you could call pre-revenue, but these are some applications that are actually already using Soarchain and using the native testnet token, which will actually convert to using the actual mainnet token once we go live. So it's pre-revenue / almost revenue.
Awesome. We'll be soon. Yeah. I'm gonna DM you just actually a demo that IoTex and DIMO did together, which on Telegram, which basically uses ZK proofs to prove car mileage data within certain ranges without revealing the actual number of miles driven. So happy to connect you with the team if that's something of interest. But I thought it was really cool back when I was at IoTex, and it seems like you guys are thinking along the same lines in terms of user privacy. I know we're basically at time here, so I want to ask you one last quick question, which is, you were building a Cosmos L1, I think, and I've heard you're moving to Solana now, and that's kind of where the token's going to be launched. So curious why the move, what you like about Solana and its ecosystem, and then also when token.
Yeah, definitely. So we started out as the Cosmos L1, which still actually makes up a lot of our architecture. So the runner network and the data verification framework that I've mentioned would have been really not possible without having the internal consensus mechanism and all these nodes running to achieve consensus on these proofs, because it's a huge data, like hundreds of gigabytes of data per day needs to be processed, and these happen in an internal network, data verification network, which is built using the Comet BFT. And the switch to Solana was, of course, had many reasons. The first and foremost reason would be the vibrant community and the DPINs being there, and having this synergy with other DPINs, both in terms of collaborations in both the technical aspects and also on the business development aspects. This had been like a huge driving force for us. The second thing is, of course, the TPS, the technical sides, the ease of use, the developer experience. It was pretty easy to switch to it. We already had all the things ready, but when you look at it, many things were developed from scratch, and it was developed in maybe 3 to 4 months. So that also tells a lot about the developer experience, and things just work there. So yeah, this is pretty much, and when you look at it, the system that we set up is kind of where the token and the economic value is set on the Solana mainnet, where the data verification network would still ensure that this is a decentralized network. The data verification also happens on chain and in a distributed and trustless, or at least very trust minimized manner, where this data verification would be kind of bridged and ultimately inheriting the Solana security. So that's how we see this change. But yeah, this is pretty much it. And in terms of when we're going out, we actually had a date which we needed to modify a bit due to a few reasons with the agreements and everything. But we expect it to come about this month, at most November.
Awesome. Gotta look out for a TGE. Well, that's great. Deniz, where would you like to direct our listeners to in terms of call to action / find you and Soarchain on the internet?
Yeah, definitely follow us on X, Soar_chain. Come join our Discord server. It's a very active channel where people really help each other out, and all the support requests also can be sent through Discord. Come join our Telegram, and of course, the easiest way to join and start participating in the network is to just get one of these devices from the Soarchain shop. You can find it through soarchain.com. And it's depending on your region, it's something, it would cost you something between 50 to 100 US dollars. And I think the Black Friday is coming up. Maybe there might be even some deals through the distributor. So that's also another thing. And you would still be very, very early on the network because we're just starting out. So yeah,
I'm fired up. Well, Deniz, thanks for coming on. This was really great. I'm excited to get this episode out, and we'll be in touch on release dates and everything. But best of luck this month on your TG. I think it's a great time to get the word out and to launch mainnet.
Thank you, Connor. Thank you for having me.